Welcome back. Today I'm going to do somewhat of an after-action review of some of the equipment we used on our previous trip and how it worked out. Here on the desk I have 3 items we used on this trip. We'll first talk about the handsaw I took. It's a Fiskars folding saw I picked up probably at Home Depot. Something cheap and affordable, I figured that would work. Well, as me and Jason found out, it really cuts poorly, and it was just not good to use. I actually have this Swiss Army Trekker multi-tool, and the blade on this worked so much better than the bigger saw. It was quite unbelievable. So when it comes to the saws, you might want to consider how cheap you go. Now this will eventually be replaced with a better saw. There's a couple I'm looking at that are more like a bow saw and have much better blades on them for future trips. But we're looking at about $70 for that, where I'm sure I paid under $20 for this. I carry this knife just about every trip. It's pretty simple, small or larger locking blade, and just your standard things you almost never use. Bottle opener, can opener, has an awl and a screwdriver on it. Now what I should have taken on the trip, which I guess I won't be able to get a good view of this, is my Tomahawks tomahawk. Now this would have been very beneficial in processing firewood, but I decided not to take it for the weight. Bad idea. This is the Voyager. It is quite large. Let's see if we can get you up. The sheath and the mask are separate accessories, but they're well worth it to keep you from cutting yourself. The blade, when you buy this, is extremely sharp. I actually cut myself on it once just looking at it. It runs about $140, I think it was what it was, and it took about 10 weeks to get it because they make it to order. It is a blacksmith that hand forges these. So definitely something to consider in the future. And this is my Condor bush lore. Pretty sure I called it a bush crafter when we were there. It's a knife I broke. Taped up the handle to use. Actually, sustained quite a bit of damage. I'm not sure if that was when I was trying to get it unstuck from the wood I was batoning, or if it was something in the wood. The wood is very hard. See if we can't take this apart without cutting myself and show you the damage a little bit better up close. I plan on, in the short term, trying to find scales for this and rehandle it if possible. Should be able to get the brass pins out and get something that's at least similar sized and shape it down to fit. But overall, for I think it's a $35 knife, this is a very good start if you don't have a lot of money. Now, the Mora knives, which I don't have one out, is another really cheap start. They start at $15, and they are extremely sharp and durable. But you're not going to baton the wood, or really any wood, with it, because it does not have a full tang. Even with breaking this one, I could continue on to use it because the tang is full. Oh. So, splitter all the way down from the pin, and that's just because it got caught. The piece of wood is extremely hard and too big for the knife, so I ran out of room and had to pound it out on this side, causing it to catch and fracture. So just be prepared to buy good stuff, and if you break it, cry about it maybe a little bit and see how you're going to proceed to survive the rest of the time without it, or how you can still use it. With this, it wasn't completely broke off, and it was just easy enough to tape it and make it work for batoning. So we'll file that out. It's going to take quite a bit of work there. It's probably always going to have that chip for quite a while, depending on how long I continue to use it. Here's some other larger knives I'm looking at in the market, and maybe one day we'll bring that to you. Okay, here's 3 of my current cooking stoves that I've taken out on various trips. The first stove on the left is the Pathfinder alcohol stove. I had not used that on a trip up until recently. I purchased it, and before we got going, a undisclosed person that I hike with got me going lighter, and I decided it was probably just a little too heavy. So I found this stove. It's another alcohol stove. It's made out of aluminum bottle someone turned down. It is called the Rucas HD stove, and I bought it for $19 on eBay. It is a stellar stove, but it has one problem. It's too good. I used it with the Pathfinder cup, and what I found, the flames would proceed too high up the side of the cup and end up getting the handles hot. So we looked for lighter and smaller stoves for what we were doing, and we found the Graham Weenie Pro, which is essentially the same thing, but a whole lot smaller. It you can get that in a kit. The whole cook kit for that, which I'll show you some more, is around $30. With that, we bought their 12-ounce stove, which is just good enough for a freeze-dried meal. Pretty light, pretty good. But what we found was the same thing. Even using the stove, the top, even with the silicone guards, would get hot. Before I forget, this lamp wick material, when it's cold, you soak this with alcohol and you light it, and that'll help prime the stove so it doesn't take so long to go. And with both of these, there's no extra stove needed. You set it right on top. It closes the fuel gap here, pressurizes it, and has the flames come out the side. So, 2 really good small alcohol stoves. Now, if you go with a larger pot, I don't remember how big this is, I think the Rucas would be perfectly fine. As well for the Pathfinder. The Pathfinder comes with its own stove ring, and it holds its own fuel. It holds 4 ounces of fuel. And that is all it takes to set it up. And you're good to go. You can put just about anything on there. Now, I will say the Pathfinder stove is very much slower at cooking. It does take a significantly long time to work, but I think it's very fuel efficient. It doesn't seem like it burns a lot of fuel for the time it boils. For the little bit amount we used on the trip, it didn't take long at all for it to boil. You just need to make sure that lid's on tight. It has its own snuffer / flame control, so you can put it out or simmer. Both the other stoves take about 1 ounce of fuel to cook, give or take. And I'll try to put the links to I'll put the links to these down and below. So some of the current items we have to use. The alcohol is definitely a little hard to use when it's cold, but we didn't have any problems in the 40s with it. So I hope you liked the video. Hope this gives you a little information about what's available, and it all depends on how light you want to go and what you're willing to carry. So if you like the video, please like it and share it, and subscribe if you haven't already. I will try to keep getting you some informational and maybe some entertaining videos out.